बैठो बेटा। Very good morning. Very good morning. Here.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Very good. Very
Good
good.
morning,
Very good. Today I could hear some voices. Yes. So today we are going to continue the previous topic, that is the molecular basis of muscle contraction. Now it is its extension in the form of neuromuscular junction as well as excitation, contraction, coupling and related topics. So neuromuscular junction, it is the junction between motor nerve fiber and corresponding skeletal muscle fiber. A alpha type of nerve fibers supply skeletal muscles. When nerve fiber comes near the muscle, it loses its myelin sheath and divides into number of branches. Each branch at its termination is distended to form synaptic knob or synaptic button. At this junction, the muscle fiber invaginates to form synaptic gutter. Space between nerve terminal and muscle fiber is called as synaptic cleft, which is filled with the extracellular fluid with the reticular fibers forming the matrix. Post-junctional muscle membrane showing a number of folds regarded as subneural clefts, which will increase the total surface area. There are receptor sites for acetylcholine on the junctional membrane. Matrix of the subneural clefts contain cholinesterase, which degrades acetylcholine. So I will talk about the drugs also. Acetylcholine-like drugs such as methacholine, carbachol, which are not destroyed at cholinesterase at the neuromuscular junction, producing prolonged spasm. Nerve terminal contains a large number of vesicles, say about 3 lakhs, and containing acetylcholine. Each vesicle will be containing 10,000 acetylcholine molecules and also mitochondria. So then motor end plate, part of sarcolemma forming the groove in which bulbous expansion of neuron rests and on which acetylcholine receptors are present. Acetylcholine receptors having lifespan of about 10 days, present at the post-junctional membrane of the neuromuscular junction, post-junctional membrane of the autonomic ganglia, sympathetic and parasympathetic, post-junctional membrane of smooth and cardiac muscles as well as endocrine glandular cells where post-glandular and parasympathetic fibers terminate. Acetylcholine receptors comprising of 4 subunits alpha, beta, gamma, delta, comprising of 2 types, muscarinic, that is M type, which can be blocked by atropine. Very commonly asked question, application of knowledge of atropine. Yes, you are going to use atropine in order to produce blocking of effect of muscarinic type of acetylcholine receptors. And another variety is nicotinic or N type of receptors. So M type of receptor or muscarinic type of receptors comprising of varieties M1 to M5. M1, it is predominantly present in the central nervous system synapses between enteric nervous system and autonomic nervous system. M2, another variety, most of acetylcholine receptors are present in the postganglionic sympathetic nerve endings. Other varieties, their functions had to be established. So N type, nicotinic type of receptors comprising of 2 varieties, nicotinic neural and nicotinic muscular. Nicotinic neural, NN, present in the post-junctional membrane of the autonomic nervous system ganglia, which can be blocked by ganglionic blocker such as hexamethonium. Nicotinic muscular, that is NM, which is found present at post-junctional membrane of neuromuscular junction, which can be blocked by curare. So yes, so here you can see from the spinal cord axon of the afferent motor nerve, which will be terminating at the muscle fibers, axon terminal and electron microscopic structure. So yes, here whatever I had mentioned, axon terminal of the motor nerve, the myelin sheath, Schwann cells. The terminal portion is presenting as a button, terminal button. Yes. Then this bulbous portion containing vesicles, which in turn containing neurotransmitters. Plenty of mitochondria are also seen. And this is the muscle portion. So yes, muscle portion. It is a motor and plate presenting with folds. These folds are yes, subneural clefts. Yes, we are supposed to know that these are the junctional folds by virtue of which you are going to have increase in the surface area, and these are the sites where you can present the allocation of the receptors also. So yes, the same diagram. Yes, axon terminal and post-junctional membrane. This is the post-junctional membrane, longitudinal section and a longitudinal section this side and cross-sectional section on this side. So yes, here, yes, axon terminal, once again magnified view, axon terminal in the synaptic trough, synaptic vesicles. This is post-junctional membrane, which is otherwise called as end plate and motor end plate, folded. Yes, we are going to have mitochondria in the muscle and also, yes. So here, what is happening? There will be release by virtue of activity of a calcium, voltage-gated calcium channel. So voltage-gated calcium channel at the pre-junctional membrane of neuron. This is pre-junctional membrane. Many times we call it as presynaptic membrane. Pre-junctional membrane from the motor nerve, presenting with the existence of plenty of calcium channels. These calcium channels resulting in the influx of calcium into the motor nerve, as a result of which concentration of calcium within the motor nerve increases, as a result of which vesicles containing neurotransmitters are activated. They will move towards the periphery, attach to the inner surface of the pre-junctional membrane of the axon terminal, and there will be calcium dependent, energy dependent exocytosis of synaptic vesicles with release of neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters, particularly in this case acetylcholine, will be finding its way to attachment for acetylcholine receptors present in the subneural clefts or folds of the post-junctional membrane. So yes, we have mentioned already each vesicle containing 10,000 molecules of acetylcholine, and there will be acetylcholine receptors on the post-junctional membrane, junctional fold. So, and acetylcholine esterase, all those things we will talk about this later once again. So yes, these are the steps we are supposed to know, which will be contributing for, I had already mentioned in the previous class, excitation, contraction, coupling. So these are involved in the excitation, contraction, coupling as events. Steps in the contraction, same in the case of neuromuscular junction also. What is happening? Initiation, propagation of the axon, action potential in the motor neuron axon. There is an increase in the permeability of the nerve terminal membrane to calcium ion after the arrival of the impulse at the nerve terminal, that is the synaptic button. diffusion of calcium from the extracellular fluid into the interior of the nerve fiber, as a result of which activity of the synaptic vesicles takes place. Acetylcholine containing vesicles moving towards the periphery, attaching to the axon terminal membrane, as a result of which there will be a process called as energy dependent calcium dependent exocytosis, release of acetylcholine from the nerve terminal, and this released acetylcholine will be moving in the synaptic cleft by virtue of diffusion, and it will be finding its way to bind onto the receptors present on the end plate, that is the motor end plate in the muscle part, Then at the point of attachment of acetylcholine on acetylcholine receptors in the motor end plate, opening up of acetylcholine gated channels in the end plate, there will be entry of plenty of sodium. Less plentifully, calcium will also enter through these channels, as a result of which there is a process called as development of EPP, that is end plate potential. When this end plate potential, which is by nature local, that is local end plate potential, when it is of threshold magnitude, there will be opening up of the voltage gated sodium channels at the site, that is at the muscle, as a result of which initiation of the action potential in the muscle fiber by end plate depolarization. Then inward spread of action potential along T system, then spread of depolarization to the terminal system with the release of calcium in the myofibril. There is increase in the concentration of calcium in the ICF by 2000 times. And we have to know at this particular point of time, there is a great role to be played by ionic calcium. Ionic calcium, it is going to bind to troponin C, resulting in the lateral movement of tropomyosin, resulting in the exposing of binding sites of myosin heads to actin, as well as it also activates prosthetic group of myosin filament, as a result of which ATP breakdown occurs, which is resulting in the contraction of actin myosin complex with the activation of sliding filament system. I discussed about this in the previous class. It is in continuation of the previous class, and it will be resulting in the muscular contraction. So yes, you are going to have the arrival of the impulse to the axon terminal. These are the vesicles containing acetylcholine will be released, and acetylcholine binding site on which the acetylcholine is being coupled up, as a result of which there is development of end plate potential. So this is a depolarized end plate, that is end plate potential. It is invariably depolarization. I had mentioned this also. So yes, you are going to see that there is development of end plate potential. This thing you can once again appreciate. And what is really happening? Nerve action potential depolarizes the pre-junctional membrane, which is resulting in the release of acetylcholine, which will result in the diffusion into the synaptic cleft, which will combine with the receptor, acetylcholine receptor present at the post-junctional membrane, which will result in the increase in the sodium ion permeability of the post-junctional membrane, resulting in the depolarization of the end plate, initiation of the muscle action potential, resulting in excitation contraction coupling, and there is development of tension. And you know that synthesis of acetylcholine in the motor neurons, it is going to be associated with the periodic conversion into the vesicles, and it will be periodically removed. Acetylcholine is once after completing its function, it will be removed. It will be removed by diffusion, as well as removed by hydrolysis by acetylcholinesterase enzyme. That I will discuss later. So yes, so what is excitation contraction coupling? So yes, there is quantal release of acetylcholine, generation of end plate potential. Then we are going to have transmission of action potential along the membrane of the muscle. There will be movement of action potential in the T tubule. This is T tubule. So yes, T tubule. Then you are going to have a process called as a voltage changes sensed by the dihydropyridine receptors which are present. Yes, food processes. So you are going to express them as food processes, dihydropyridine receptors, and there will be calcium release via ryanodine receptors. There will be initiation of contraction. So you have to know that what is excitation, contraction, coupling. It is the coupling of an electrical event with a mechanical event through a chemical messenger. This is the chemical messenger. Action potential resulting in the contraction in presence of calcium. So yes, we have seen in the resting state, actin, myosin, tropomyosin. Tropomyosin strands are going to keep the active sites present on the actin molecule being hidden because of troponin actin complex. Troponin actin complex, which is attached at one end of the tropomyosin strand, holding actin molecules in such a way that binding sites available on the actin molecule are being kept hidden within the strands of tropomyosin. At the point of activity coupling with the calcium, what you are going to see is troponin is being attached to calcium through its subunit troponin C. As a result of which, tropomyosin strands are being pulled away along with the troponin. As a result of which, the active sites available on actin molecules are being exposed, and these binding sites can be coupled up with the myosin heads for the cross bridge activity. So yes, so this is cross bridge is not attached to actin, cross bridge binding to actin, then phosphate is released from myosin head causing conformational change in the myosin molecule, then generation of power stroke which is resulting in the filament to slide, ATP is being released, then a new ATP is being formed to bind to myosin head, allowing it to release from actin, and ATP is hydrolyzed, phosphate binds to myosin, causing cross bridge to return to its original orientation and cycle repeats. So here a graphical representation. So this is the portion which is representing normal end plate potential. But if we have used something called as Curie, so we are going to see the response like this. Or if we are going to have botulinum toxin. So later on we will talk about this. So the picture will be like C part in the graph. So kindly refer to the textbook also after the class. So choline with acetylcholine, acetyl coenzyme under the influence of choline, acetyl transferase forming acetylcholine, under the influence of cholinesterase splitting into choline and acetate. Same thing in the cholinergic neuron, acetyl coenzyme A with the choline resulting in the formation of acetylcholine, which is being released and accepted at nicotinic acetylcholine receptor at the post-junctional membrane, and after its activity it can be taken up by acetylcholine esterase to convert it back into choline, and it will be brought back into the motor neuron. So steps in relaxation. Calcium is pumped back through calcium pump to the longitudinal portion of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. From there, it is being transported to the terminal cistern for its storage. Then release of calcium from troponin C. Then once the concentration of ICF calcium is sufficiently reduced, there will be cessation of interaction between actin and myosin molecule, resulting in the relaxation of the muscle. So we have to know about some reactions and effect. Lohmann's reaction. So it is called as phosphorylation of ADP by creatine phosphate. This is creatine phosphate, phosphoryl creatine. Understood? Phosphorylation of ADP by creatine phosphate, resulting in the formation of ATP rapidly at the onset of contractile activity. At the point of contractile activity, there is formation of ATP from ADP, which is being referred to as Lohmann's reaction. More is the activity, more is the formation of ATP, more is the phosphorylation of ADP. What is Fenn effect? So yes, when there is an increase in the muscle, there will be increase in the total energy released by the muscle. So yes, when you are expecting the muscle to work more, there will be more release of energy by the muscle, which is felt. Say, when you are going to appreciate, say, for example, working muscle, when you are working and you are trying to feel the rise in the temperature of the working muscle, you try to feel what will happen. There is an increase in the temperature. It means that energy is released, energy is utilized for the purpose of work to be performed by the muscle. That is being referred to as Fenn effect. Many times in Viva, we ask this, what is Fenn effect? How you can, in a living model, you can demonstrate it. It is by virtue of appreciation of rise in the temperature of the working muscle. You can feel that there is a rise in the temperature of the working muscle. You can feel it. It is called as Fenn effect. So end plate potential, we have already mentioned end plate, motor end plate, conduction of the nerve impulse to the pre-junctional nerve ending, resulting in the release of acetylcholine into the cleft. As a result of it, there is attachment of acetylcholine to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors on the motor end plate, and there is an increased permeability of sodium causing depolarization of the post-junctional membrane, which is resulting in the development of non-propagated local potential. Non-propagated local potential at the end plate is called as end plate potential. Understood? So we have to know like that. Then miniature end plate potential. What is miniature end plate potential? So miniature end plate potential is the one which is present during rest also. So during rest, even in the absence of the impulse, very small potential changes up to 0.5 millivolt can be recorded from the motor end plate, which is called as miniature end plate potential, even in the absence of impulse or during sleep, or during rest, not sleep, during rest or even in the absence of the impulse, there is something, some potential is being recordable. Understood? Now, clinical importance of the neuromuscular junction. Why you want to study? So, by virtue of studying the neuromuscular junction, it is possible to block the effects happening through the neuromuscular junction. Blocking of the neuromuscular junction is possible. How it is going to be beneficial? Blocking of the neuromuscular junction is beneficial in that way that it is going to produce in the muscle relaxation. This process of muscle relaxation being useful in the surgical operation. You can provide a wide space for the surgical operation by relaxing the muscles. That is number one. Number two, reduction in the movements in psychotic patients during electroconvulsive therapy. Small current is being passed through the system in the electroconvulsive treatment. We are going to use a small current to be the particular one, EEG. You are going to say even also recording of the EEG later on during discussion of central nervous system. Here, what we are doing, we are going to apply the current, and it is being applied through the skull yes, application to the scalp, and that will produce a tonic clonic convulsion like episodes, which can be producing some injury to the individual, can be prevented by virtue of, before going for the procedure, use some blockers of the neuromuscular junction, which will result in the reduction in the movement. So then, blockage of neuromuscular junction. So there are two varieties of blocking. One is by inhibiting the release of acetylcholine from the prejunctional membrane. For example, bacterial toxin, botulinum toxin. And another one is drugs which antagonize the action of acetylcholine or the postjunctional membrane. That is by competitive inhibition, D-tibutocurarin, then by persistent depolarization, dexamethasone. So yes. So here, so chemical agent, black widow spider venom. When the venom sting, yes, bite is there. Venomous snake bite. What is happening? That will alter the release of acetylcholine, which will result in the explosive release of acetylcholine at the junction. So black widow spider venom causing explosive release of acetylcholine. Then Clostridium botulinum toxin. This is a food poisoning entity. So this is resulting in blocking of the release of acetylcholine. Then D-tibutocurarin, Curare group of drugs. This will block acetylcholine receptor channels, which will be producing reversible binding with acetylcholine receptor channels. Then a condition, myasthenia gravis. We will talk about this. It is an autoimmune disease wherein autoantibodies are produced, which will inactivate acetylcholine receptor channels. Then organophosphorus compounds. So pesticides, military nerve gases. So they are containing organophosphorus. They are called as organophosphates, which will result in prevention of inactivation of acetylcholine, which will be causing irreversible inhibition of acetylcholine esterase. Understood? Acetylcholine esterase. Then neostigmine, which is used in the treatment of autoimmune disease, myasthenia gravis, which is temporarily inhibiting acetylcholine esterase. Later on, we will discuss about this. So here, yes, chemical agent Clostridium botulinum blocking the release of acetylcholine. Lambert-Eaton syndrome. Later on, we will discuss blocking calcium channels present in the prejunctional terminal. Black widow spider venom causing explosive release of acetylcholine. And you have to know that organophosphates in the nerve gas as well as pesticides resulting in the irreversible inhibition of acetylcholine esterase. Whereas neostigmine, which is used in the case of treatment of myasthenia gravis, blocking the action of acetylcholine esterase, thus prolonging the action of acetylcholine. So yes, here we have to talk about two entities. One is synapse, another one is neuromuscular junction. How the synapse and neuromuscular junction are behaving in a similar way and how they are different. Synapse and neuromuscular junction both consist of two excitable cells separated by narrow cleft that prevents direct transmission of electrical activity between them. This is number one. Number two, both of them, yes, presenting with axon terminals of both, store chemical messengers, neurotransmitters, that are released by calcium-induced exocytosis of storage vesicles when an action potential reaches the terminal. So this also we will discuss later on during synapse. I will talk about this also once again. In both, binding of neurotransmitter with the receptor channels in the membrane of cell underlying the axon terminal opens the channels permitting ionic movements that alter the membrane potential of the cell. The resultant change in the membrane potential in both the cases is graded potential. That is local response or graded potential. Understood? What are the differences? Synapse is a junction between two neurons. A neuromuscular junction exists between a motor neuron and a skeletal muscle fiber. Then one-to-one transmission of action potential occurs at a neuromuscular junction, whereas action potential in a presynaptic neuron usually cannot by itself bring about an action potential in the postsynaptic neuron. An action potential in the postsynaptic neuron typically occurs only when summation of excitatory postsynaptic membrane potentials, EPSPs, brings the membrane to the threshold. Neuromuscular junction is always excitatory, that is end-plate potential. A synapse may be either an excitatory, that is excitatory postsynaptic membrane potential, or inhibitory postsynaptic membrane potential. Then what are the other differences? So inhibition of the skeletal muscle cannot be accomplished at the neuromuscular junction. It can occur only in the central nervous system through inhibitory postsynaptic membrane potentials at the dendrites and cell body of motor neuron. So we will talk about two types of fibers, type 1 skeletal muscle fiber and type 2 skeletal muscle fibers. Type 1 skeletal muscle fibers, slow, oxidative and red, whereas type 2 fast, glycolytic and white. Why white? So we will tell here mitochondria, capillaries are less. So yes, white. Then there is slow myosin isoenzyme ATPase rate, whereas this myosin isoenzyme ATPase rate is fast in case of type 2 skeletal muscle fiber. Then calcium pumping capacity of sarcoplasmic reticulum is moderate in case of type 1 skeletal muscle fibers, whereas it is high in case of type 2 skeletal muscle fibers. Then diameter of the muscle fiber. Diameter of the muscle fiber is moderate in type 1, large in type 2. Then glycolytic activity. Glycolytic activity is moderate in case of skeletal muscle fiber type 1, whereas it is high in case of type 2 skeletal muscle fibers. Then oxidative capacity. Oxidative capacity is high in case of skeletal muscle fiber type 1, whereas in case of type 2 it is low. I had already mentioned this oxidative capacity is high in case of type 1 skeletal muscle fibers because of plenty of mitochondria, plenty of capillaries, plenty of myoglobin. Understood? In case of type 1. Yes? Are you able to follow? Hello? Are you able to follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. When speed is okay. You are able to follow, no?
Yes,
Very
sir.
nice. In the previous class, I was talking to you about isometric isotonic contraction. What are the differences? So yes, types of contraction under which we are going to discuss, say isotonic and isometric. So what is isotonic? It is a type of contraction where length of muscle changes, tension remains constant. Whereas isometric contraction, it is a type of contraction where tension of the muscle changes, length remains constant. Then external work. Muscle does external work in case of isotonic contraction. Whereas in case of isometric contraction, muscle does not do external work. So here we can provide the example, isotonic contraction. If you are going to lift a bucket of water, the particular entity type of contraction which is happening is isotonic. Tone remains constant, length changes. Understood? Length changes. Here, in case of isometric, contraction of the anti-gravity muscles only for maintaining the posture. So yes, simple walking. So you can mention, so contraction of the anti-gravity muscles for maintaining posture. Contraction of the arm muscles, say you are trying to push the wall. What is happening? Contraction in the arm muscles will occur. So this is a type of contraction which is representing isometric contraction. Now, this is the physiology behind isotonic and isometric contraction. What is that physiology? In case of isotonic contraction, when the muscle is stimulated, myofibrils contract, series elastic component is stretched. Series elastic component, for example, tendon is stretched initially to raise the tension. When tension exceeds the effect of weight, whole muscle shortens to lift it up. Later, tension remains constant throughout the remaining period of contraction due to shortening of contractile component, that is actin myosin complex, shortening of contractile component. Whereas in case of isometric contraction, when the muscle is stimulated, myofibrils shorten, but in doing so, stretching of series elastic component, thus keeping the length of the muscle constant. Then evolution of heat. Evolution of heat in case of isotonic contraction is less and duration is also small, whereas evolution of heat is more and duration is long in case of isometric contraction. Mechanical efficiency. So mechanical efficiency. So what is output divided by input? It is representing as efficiency. Mechanical efficiency is more in case of isotonic contraction, whereas in case of isometric contraction it is less. Then load. This is the external force acting on the contracting muscle. So load determines the velocity of shortening. Load determines the velocity of shortening in case of isotonic contraction, whereas length of sarcomere determines the tension generated. Length of sarcomere. Understood? So length of sarcomere. Now we will talk about some applied aspects. What is rigor? Rigor, it is a condition associated with extreme rigidity, which is occurring due to depletion of ATP and phosphoryl creatine, that is creatine phosphate. So it can be of three varieties. One is heat rigor, cold rigor, calcium rigor. Heat rigor, when the temperature is more than 50 degrees Celsius, there will be coagulation of the protein, which is resulting in the heat rigor. When the temperature is low, extreme low temperature, also capable of producing a situation called as rigor. So yeah, it is also a question, what is rigor? What are the types of rigors? Enumerate the causes for rigors. So very commonly asked question. Cold rigor, it is because of low temperature. Calcium rigor, when there is increase in the concentration of calcium, say extracellular calcium is being increased, what will happen? So this will be told to you during practical classes also. I think next week, Dr. Sumangala madam will talk about this, heart and muscle preparations. I think so. So she will talk about more regarding rigor. What is rigor? Calcium rigor. So there is sustained contraction resulting due to elevated concentration of calcium which is presenting as rigidity, which may be due to depletion of ATP as well as phosphoryl creatine. Then rigor mortis, very important question. What is rigor mortis? Rigor means rigor, stiffness of the muscle, mortis following the death. So during the cross bridge cycle, binding of ATP to the myosin head breaks actin myosin interaction, brings in relaxation. This is the principle. During cross bridge cycle, binding of ATP to the myosin head breaks actin myosin interaction and results in the relaxation. After that, cellular energy stores are depleted. Cross bridge detachment cannot occur due to lack of ATP. As a result of which, myosin heads will remain in the attached state. So what will happen after the death? There is increase in the cytoplasmic calcium. Cytoplasmic calcium level is elevated. It is due to 1. Calcium not pumped back to sarcoplasmic reticulum in the absence of ATP. In the absence of ATP, calcium cannot be pumped back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum, longitudinal tubules. Calcium diffuses from extracellular fluid to the cytoplasm as inactive muscle membrane cannot maintain gradient of calcium between ECF and ICF as occurs in life. So yes, we are seeing that calcium concentration, differential concentration of the calcium inside and outside the cell is being seen in case of life. It is not now existing because the membrane fails to achieve that. Then there is an inactivity of the membrane of sarcoplasmic reticulum which cannot hold back calcium, which will diffuse out from sarcoplasmic reticulum to the sarcoplasm. So that is the cytoplasm of the muscle cell. As a result of which, cytoplasmic calcium level is elevated. These are the 3 factors. Raised cytoplasmic calcium concentration initiating contraction by exposing myosin heads to actin and allowing formation of cross bridges that do not detach due to ATP, which will be leading to the stiffness in the muscle, which will start in about 3 to 4 hours after death and gets completed in about 12 hours. Due to autolysis, actually what is happening? Disintegration of muscle protein. This particular stiffness disappears after 48 to 60 hours of death. Understood? After 48 to 60 hours of death. Then what is tetanus? It is the sustained state of contraction due to repeated stimulus applied at high rate. This word high rate is important. Sustained state of contraction due to repeated stimulus applied at a high rate called as tetanus. Then clonus, incomplete tetanus. Stimulation of the muscle at a low frequency, that is subtetanic frequency. Understood? Stimulation of muscle at a low frequency, there will be periods of incomplete relaxation between summated stimuli. Then there is one more condition. You are going to have contraction, staircase phenomenon. Maximal stimuli at a frequency below tetanizing frequency, resulting in the development of uniform tension. So you have to remember what is tetanus, what is clonus, what is strepe or the staircase phenomenon. Maximal stimuli at a frequency below your tetanizing frequency, resulting in the development of uniform tension, increasing availability of the calcium for troponin C. Now we will come to the applied aspect of neuromuscular junction. Myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia gravis, myasthenia, myo means muscle, asthenia means weakness. Females are commonly affected over to male individual 3:2. It is an autoimmune disease caused by formation of circulating antibodies belonging to IgG type to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. Disease disease is characterized by rapid onset of fatigue. I had already mentioned what is fatigue. It is a reversible protective phenomenon wherein there is decrease or absence of performance due to repeated or continuous stimulation. Understood? Fatigue. Disease is characterized by rapid onset of fatigue with marked generalized weakness of the muscles. Here, you are going to appreciate inability to transmit the signals from the nerve to the muscle fibers. There is a decrease in the acetylcholine channels. There will be associated decrease in the surface area of the subneural clefts, which will be resulting in the decrease in the end plate potential, which will be resulting in the failure to stimulate muscle fiber. Though end plate potentially is the end plate, decrease in the end plate potential. There is a failure to stimulate muscle fiber, though there is a release of acetylcholine from the nerve terminal is normal. So same thing. So what is happening? So there is decrease in the acetylcholine receptors. There is decrease in the number of interaction between acetylcholine and acetylcholine receptors. Decrease in the number of opening up of sodium channels in the end plate. Decrease in the amplitude of end plate potential. Failure for the generation of the muscle action potential. No contraction of the muscle, automatically resulting in the weakness. So yes, most commonly affected muscles in case of myasthenia gravis are extraocular muscles. So when the extraocular muscles are affected, individual will present with a double vision. So yes, the first striking feature is that the individual is presenting with a double vision. He will be telling that I am getting double vision, sir. So yes, that may be the first complaint because of involvement of the extraocular muscles. Then facial muscles may be affected. As a result of involvement of the facial muscles, there will be bilateral ptosis, drooping of upper eyelids. So we have to know what cause for drooping, bilateral ptosis. One of the important causes is myasthenia gravis, drooping of the upper eyelid. Then muscles associated with swallowing, mastication are also being affected, and the proximal muscles of the limbs are also affected. Then patient may become bedridden, die due to paralysis of the respiratory muscles. So here some points you have to remember. In myasthenia gravis, acetylcholine receptor antibodies do not decrease the amount of acetylcholine released from the prejunctional terminal, do not affect the rate of synthesis of acetylcholine receptors, do not affect incorporation of receptors into the muscle membrane, do not produce abnormal receptors, do not block the interaction between acetylcholine and acetylcholine receptors. What is the mode of treatment? Anticholinesterase. Drugs such as neostigmine, physostigmine are being useful, already I had mentioned, which will result in the accumulation of the acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction. And it is also seen that the patients suffering from myasthenia gravis are having abnormal immune responses, which are mediated through T cells. These T cells are processed in the thymus. The reason is that we may be getting these reactions because of thymus also. The surgical intervention in the form of thymectomy may help the individual, Thymectomy improves the condition. Then, so immunosuppression. So immunosuppression is also one of the modalities involved in the treatment of myasthenia gravis through glucocorticoids and azathioprine. Then plasmapheresis. You are knowing from blood, plasmapheresis. This plasmapheresis, knowledge of plasmapheresis can be applied in order to remove acetylcholine receptor antibodies, anti-ACH receptor from the plasma. Understood? Then Lambert-Eaton myasthenic syndrome. It is associated with presynaptic. It is a presynaptic disorder of the neuromuscular junction due to production of autoantibodies against voltage-gated calcium channels. As a result of which, there will be decreased calcium influx into presynaptic or pre-junctional axon terminal, resulting in impaired acetylcholine release from the nerve ending. As a result of which, individual is presenting with the muscular weakness primarily in the limb muscles. The patients show incremental response to the repeated nerve stimulation as calcium level rises with each action potential. So the individual will improve at the point of being repeatedly stimulated because of release of calcium is being increased and additive effect is being observed. What is denervation's hypersensitivity? Denervation hypersensitivity, it is an abnormal excitability of the muscle with the increased sensitivity to the circulating neurotransmitter such as acetylcholine. When a neuron is cut, distal axon degenerates, target tissue innervated by the synaptic terminals becoming more reactive or hyper responsive to neurotransmitter secreted at the nerve ending. Seen in case of skeletal muscle predominantly, also smooth muscles. Due to degeneration of the nerve ending, chemical, that is neurotransmitter, is no longer released from the nerve terminal. Tissue reacts to neurotransmitter present in the circulation where concentration of the chemical is less than that at synaptic endings. Hypersensitivity, it is due to increased number of receptors at the post-junctional membrane. Both number and distribution of the receptors will increase, and it is seen that after degeneration of the motor nerve, acetylcholine receptors appear all over the sarcolemma instead of being confined to motor end plate. In life, during health, motor end plate is the site where we are going to have the allocation for our acetylcholine receptors. Now, whole sarcolemma presenting with presence of acetylcholine receptors. There is second one, increased responsiveness of the receptors to the chemical. And C, in case of noradrenergic neurons, reuptake of the neurotransmitter by presynaptic terminals is reduced. As a result of which, increase in the plasma concentration of neurotransmitter, that is noradrenaline. Effects are seen similar to lower motor neuron lesion. So I will talk about this also when I am going to talk about central nervous system. Lower motor neuron lesion. So there is a lesion which is being associated with involvement of the portion of motor neuron present from spinal cord to the muscles, effectors. Spinal cord to the muscles, that is called as lower motor neuron. Upper motor neuron, cerebral cortex to the spinal cord. The portion of the motor neuron existent between cerebral cortex to the spinal cord is called as upper motor. Portion of the motor neuron present from spinal cord to the effectors, muscles, is called as lower motor neuron. The features in case of denervation hypersensitivity, I think in the case of salivary secretion also, this will be talked about. So if it is not, you can refer to the textbook, no problem. Lower motor neuron lesion like manifestations are being presented in the individual. What is atrophy? Very commonly asked question. What is atrophy? This is shrinkage of the muscle which is associated with reduction in the size of the reduction in the diameter of the muscle fibers. So there is a reduction in the size of the muscle due to reduction in the individual diameter of the muscle fibers. As a result of which, the size of the muscle in toto is being reduced. Over a period of time, it may be replaced by the fibrous tissue rather than it is muscle active, muscle inactive, fibrous muscle. Understood? Then complete paralysis of the muscle is being referred to as flaccid paralysis. Another condition we commonly mention muscle cramp. What is muscle cramp? It is involuntary, localized, painful, tetanic contraction of the muscle relieved by stretching the affected muscle. Involuntary, localized, painful, tetanic contraction of the muscle relieved by the stretching of the affected muscle. Then contracture. Many times the confusion is that what is contracture? Contracture is prolonged contraction of the muscle in the absence of action potential. Now, two more items I will discuss: smooth muscle and excitation contraction coupling in the smooth muscle in one slide. Smooth muscle can be of two units. One multi-unit, another one is single unit. What is multi-unit? Each muscle fiber contracts independently. It is under the control of central nervous system. No spontaneous contraction. Functionally, it is like skeletal muscle. Multi-unit. So, ciliary muscle of the eye is an example. Each muscle fiber contracts independently and under control of central nervous system. Single unit, hundreds of muscle fibers contract simultaneously as a single unit. Synovial muscle, functionally like cardiac muscle. Understood? So, hundreds of muscle fibers contract simultaneously as a single synovial muscle, functionally like cardiac muscle. Understood? It is seen in case of visceral smooth muscle. Now, the last one, many times it is for 3 marks or 5 marks being asked. What are the steps involved in the contraction and relaxation of the visceral smooth muscle? Binding of acetylcholine to muscarinic receptors. Then there will be increase in the influx of calcium into the cell. Activation of calmodulin dependent myosin light chain kinase. Phosphorylation of myosin. Then increase in the myosin ATPase activity. Binding of myosin to actin, resulting in the contraction. Then steps involved in the relaxation, dephosphorylation of the myosin by myosin kinase, and very important is latch bridge mechanism. Relaxation due to latch bridge mechanism. What is latch bridge mechanism? It is dephosphorylation of attached cross bridge occurs in an environment of elevated cytosolic calcium. Actually, in the environment of decreased cytosolic calcium should have happened, but in case of smooth muscle, latch bridge mechanism is occurring. It is dephosphorylation of attached cross bridge which occurs in the environment of elevated cytosolic calcium. So these are steps of contraction and relaxation of visceral smooth muscle. Understood? This will be completing the topics assigned to me under neuromuscular physiology. I will continue with the organization of central nervous system in the next class on Monday. There is on 3rd of May. Thank you. Other teachers will continue with the other topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Anna. ಸುಧೀರಣ್ಣ ಬಾ. ಅಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತು ಹಾಕಬಹುದು. ಕೆಲ್ಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಹುಡುಗರು. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಕಾಫಿಂಗ್.